because back in June, I discovered something interesting about Internet Explorer 7. Something interesting happens when you autofocus an input field. You might not ever realize that it's happening, but in this one use case that I was looking at, I discovered it. And so I created a test page to see if I could recreate it, and I was able to recreate it. And basically what I was able to determine from my test page was that in Internet Explorer 7, when you focus an input field, that focus event bubbles up to the window. So if you don't know what I mean by bubble, or an event bubble, is basically whenever a user clicks on a page, we'll talk about the click event right now because that's a little bit easier to give an example for. But when a user clicks on a page, say they're clicking on a button, they're not just clicking on the button. They're clicking on the form that the button is within. They're clicking on probably a div container that the form is within, and they're clicking on the body, and they're clicking on the HTML document itself. So there's this hierarchy that the user is actually clicking on. What an event bubble is the path that an event travels, and in some cases you want an event to bubble up. Clicking is a good example of an event that makes sense, that not only is the element that the user is probably targeting, but all of its parents. It probably makes sense to let them know that something's being clicked, and then you can code accordingly. There are instances where it doesn't make sense, and apparently browser vendors differ on when it makes sense and when it doesn't make sense. And I think in this case, Microsoft, for Internet Explorer 7, decided that when you focus an input field, that event will bubble up to the window. And again, you probably almost never see this happen. And the way I was able to see it happen was we're popping up a window, but in the window behind, we're displaying a layer. And within that layer is a form that has an input field, and that input field is autofocusing. So what was happening, so it was working the way we had intended in all of our other browsers, but in Internet Explorer 7, the pop-up window was always going behind. And it took me a while to figure out what was going on, but this is what I boiled it down to. And I set up a test page on my site to demonstrate it. Feel free to give it a try if you have access to Internet Explorer 7. And if you don't, I'll show you right now. So let's take a look at this. I'm going to click the Doesn't Steal Focus link, and a window opens as expected. In the parent window, we're displaying an input field, but it is not focused. Now let's click the Steals Focus link, and you'll see the problem. The only real solution that I'm aware of is just to suppress the autofocusing in IE7.